The amigurumi world is divided, and we're putting no-sew amigurumi on trial. Some people say it's a game changer, but today I am presenting all the evidence so you be the judge. Is no-sew amigurumi overhyped or a genius innovation? Let's break it down. Hey everyone, if you're new here in the channel, I am Bianca from Crocheniacs, and if you want to learn how to crochet amigurumi from scratch, or if just like me, you love everything amigurumi related, then this is the right channel for you. But why is no-sew amigurumi such a big deal? Before we start, we need to clarify what is a no-sew amigurumi. It's not magic. It simply means that instead of sewing amigurumi parts together, they are all crocheted. You crochet them directly onto the piece or design them in a continuous shape. And it sounds great, right? But why is it causing such a drama in the crochet world? No sewing designs became more popular over the last, I would say, 2 years. And there are a couple of reasons why, which I agree. Why are they good? But there are also some disadvantages, and we are going to talk about everything here. But talking about the reasons why they became so popular, well, first, new crocheters usually prefer no sewing patterns, and I can totally understand. When you just start your amigurumi journey, there are so many things to pay attention, to concentrate, to learn. I mean, you're learning how to crochet the stitches, the magic ring, you're trying to, I don't know, improve your crochet tension, you're learning how to stuff the amigurumi properly. So there are so many details that adding sewing to it just seems overwhelming. And if you can simply skip one of those steps, it sounds great. The second thing is that some projects, and I will not say no sewing, some projects are a bit faster, which are also great for people who sell their amigurumi at markets, because of course, the more amigurumi they crochet, the more products they will have in the fairs and a better profit. They will have a better profit at the end. And it's also a bit more accessible for people with some disabilities. For some people, for some crocheters, the extra movement of sewing can be something painful for their hands, their joints, or it's simply impossible for them for some mobility issues. So for that kind of things, no sewing amigurumi designs are a blessing for sure. Oh, and I forgot to say something that it's really important. Some plushy chenille yarns simply fall apart when you start sewing. There are some brands, and there are other videos here in the channel where I talk about different plushy yarn brands. That are awful, because the moment you start crocheting, they fall apart. The yarn splits very easily. Not all plushy yarn work the same. There are some brands that are amazing and they don't break that easily. But for some yarn brands that fall apart that easily when you're crocheting, can you imagine sewing? It's a nightmare. One of the first plushy amigurumi projects that I crocheted back then in Brazil, I don't know, more than 7 years ago, the yarn was one of those that breaks very easily. And I tried to sew amigurumi parts with the same polyester thread, and it was a nightmare. It was a complete nightmare. So if this specific pattern that I was working with, this yarn, was a no sewing one, it would have been way easier for me, for sure. But wait. Before you declare that no sewing projects are the future of amigurumi, let's hear the arguments from the other side. Sometimes a no sewing pattern can be more complicated, and there is a huge myth involved that no sewing patterns are always easier, and this is a complete myth. I have crocheted many no sewing amigurumi in the past, and based on the questions and the feedback that I received from customers, from colleagues, they struggled even more with those designs than if they were sewed. And it's not like it was lacking any sort of explanation, but some designs demand more experience and the knowledge of more techniques to have the amigurumi well shaped in the end. And what do I mean by that? If you're crocheting a doll, for example, and you want to have the legs, the arms, the head, everything crocheted together, it requires some tricky joint techniques and also that you have a very good crochet tension. So when you're crocheting all parts together, you don't have the amigurumi, like for example, one arm is in the front of the body and the other is in the back.
And it looks really weird.
So this kind of joining parts together technique to avoid sewing requires symmetry and a very good crochet tension. So not necessarily they are easier than if you just had to sew the arms or the legs in the amigurumi, for example. And still talking about the arms, when sewing limbs, you have a bit more control that when you crochet those parts together. So still talking about the doll example. Let's imagine this doll. If you crochet one arm and it's wrong, you have to frog. For example, you crochet from the feet to the head and you already crocheted the arms, but then it looks weird. The only way for you to correct it is frogging the amigurumi from the head to the, I don't know, half of the body, so you can crochet and attach the arms again. It's a lot of work. While if it was just sewed, you just removed a few stitches and you try to replace and sew parts, the amigurumi parts again. So sometimes it's way easier and it gives you more control of the places that you have to attach things. And now I have to say something that is a bit more on my side as an amigurumi designer. I have been crocheting amigurumi for over a decade. I always say it here in the channel. I have some books published already, and well, I've been designing patterns for over 5 or 6 years. Oh no, I've been designing for 7 years already. So it has been a long time. And since this no sewing amigurumi became so popular in this past few years, there is a pressure on the designers to start developing those patterns because people start asking us those questions before they purchase our designs. And I remember that this was not a question a few years ago. Before purchasing a pattern, people usually wanted to know the size, although it's usually written there, some people don't read this kind of information, or the yarn, recommended, the crochet hook, those kind of details, but never if the amigurumi was sold or not, because it was implicit in the idea that if you were crocheting, there will be sewing involved. It's part of the process. And one of these days, I opened a poll here in my community because, just so you know, there is a poll in my community here on YouTube every week because I love to hear your thoughts, your opinion, your ideas. I really love learning from you as well. And for me, it was a surprise. And at the same time, I was really happy that my community thinks the same way that I do. I know some people don't like sewing and it's okay, but I loved to see some comments like, yeah, I don't understand why people make such a big drama over sewing and no sewing. It's part of the process. I know sometimes it's boring to like spend half of the time just sewing because we want to crochet, but it is part of the process. And it happened to me like, I think twice, that someone asked me and I felt bad. Like, does this pattern require sewing? And I said, yeah. And I don't remember if the person purchased the pattern when I said that it required sewing. And I was like, I really felt bad because the pattern had like, I don't know, 100 images, QR codes for tips, tricks. Everyone who purchases my patterns knows that I'm always there to help, to give assistance. If they don't understand something, I do my best. I go above and beyond to help people achieve their results. So knowing that a person is not willing to try that design that I so carefully planned, create, took photos, everything, because it required like 15 minutes, 10 minutes sewing, It was really disappointing. And from a teacher's perspective, because you all know I'm also a teacher, like I'm a graduated teacher, I have post-graduation methodology of teaching. I am currently finishing my master's degree in teaching, learning, and media education. So I love teaching, and I would love to make this process easier for you, to see that some people are not even willing to try, and it's not like they have a disability or anything. It really hurts. Especially because I put a lot of effort in the creation of the Sphinx, so it hurts. But so far, I only received one message. Thank God it was not a feedback, because if it was a feedback, it would really ruin my store reputation, which is bad. Please, guys, think twice before giving a store a feedback. But the person commented that she was very disappointed about the pattern, about the purchase, and I was like, oh, why? Is something not clear for you? What can I do to make it easier? What can I do to help? And I do it with everyone. And she said, yeah, I am disappointed because the pattern demands sewing, and I thought it was a no sewing. I was like, come on, this pattern in question had, I don't know, more than 50 positive reviews, and I'm talking about 5-star reviews. I have so many people who crocheted this amigurumi perfectly. Some people were like their first or second amigurumi in their lives, and it was flawless. And this person said she was disappointed because they demanded sewing. Come on. It's really frustrating for us designers. And I know I'm not the only one, because I have seen 2 or 3 videos about this topic here on YouTube. So I know that this is something that bothers other people as well. It's not only me. And since I started talking about my side as being a designer, I have to tell you that actually designing a pattern, a no sewing pattern, demands, depending on the project for sure. Because if it's an easy, basic amigurumi, like my no sewing octopus, that it's a tutorial available here on my channel, and if you want the PDF for the pattern, it's also available in my store. But of course, this is a very easy and simple amigurumi. But if we're talking about a bit more elaborated amigurumi, it demands a lot from us. We have to rethink the whole shape of the amigurumi in order to make it a no sewing pattern, and sometimes it becomes way more complicated than if you just spend 5 minutes sewing. So after all these arguments, where do I stand? You might be asking yourself. I do agree that for some projects, a no sewing pattern is awesome, is amazing, but not necessarily is the best way to go forever with all amigurumi projects. Some things need to be sewed, and it does not need to take forever. If you do not have any sort of disability, but you struggle with sewing, there is a playlist here on the channel. You can type sewing here on my channel, Crocheniacs, and you'll see that there are lots of videos teaching you how to sew all kinds of amigurumi parts, and I make the process really easy. Believe me, you can check the comments of those videos and you will see that everyone is like, thank you for the tip. This is amazing. Because I know that these things work. It's not only my imagination. As I said, I'm a teacher, and I know that these things that I'm teaching you are really effective. If you struggle to sew, I don't know, body to the head to the body, ears, arms, every part in the amigurumi requires some different technique, and they are way easier than people think. And they are not that boring either. Well, I already know the opinion of some of you who took a few minutes to give me a comment in the poll that I created in the community page. But if you didn't see this post, I would love to hear your thoughts on a no-sew amigurumi or sewing amigurumi. I'd really love to hear that. And yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I'll leave you this video here because I am sure you'll like it too.